Imagine being held captive, and over time you start to empathize, even form an emotional bond with your captor. Welcome to the Curious Culture Club, where we delve into the fascinating world of psychology. Today we examine the perplexing phenomenon known as Stockholm Syndrome. This psychological paradox takes its name from a bank robbery turned hostage situation that took place in Stockholm, Sweden in 1973. The hostages, held for 6 days by their captors, began to develop a strange sense of empathy towards them. Astonishingly, they defended their captors when threatened by law enforcement, sparking global intrigue and leading to the coining of the term Stockholm Syndrome. Since then, the definition of Stockholm Syndrome has broadened, enveloping a range of situations far beyond hostage crises. It's been observed in victims of domestic violence, members of cults, and even those trapped in manipulative relationships. The common thread running through these diverse scenarios is a power dynamic where one party is exerting control over another. The heart of Stockholm Syndrome lies in its counterintuitive nature. It's the emotional bond that the victim forms with their abuser, the sympathy and loyalty they feel towards the person causing them harm. This bond isn't born out of genuine affection or respect, but rather it's a survival strategy, a psychological response to a prolonged and intense traumatic situation. The complexity of Stockholm Syndrome lies in the cognitive dissonance it creates. The victim is caught in a psychological tug-of-war, trying to reconcile their understanding of their abuser as a threat with the bond they've formed with them. This dissonance can lead to a host of mental health issues, from anxiety and depression to post-traumatic stress disorder. Understanding Stockholm Syndrome is crucial in comprehending the dynamics of abuse. It helps us empathize with victims, acknowledging the psychological hurdles they face in recognizing their situation and seeking help. It's a reminder that the human mind is a labyrinth, and sometimes the paths it takes to survive can lead to unexpected destinations. This bewildering shift in loyalty from victim to perpetrator is what we now understand as Stockholm Syndrome. The question arises, why would someone sympathize with their abuser? The answer lies in our brain's response to traumatic situations. When trapped in a threatening situation, our survival instincts kick in. In the case of Stockholm Syndrome, this may manifest as empathy towards the captor, a defense mechanism aimed to increase the chances of survival. The captive may believe that by aligning themselves with the abuser, they lessen the risk of harm. Next, we encounter the concept of cognitive dissonance, where conflicting beliefs cause mental discomfort. When an individual is abused by someone they depend on, they may adjust their beliefs to resolve this conflict, often leading to sympathy for the abuser. Lastly, there's a process known as identification with the aggressor. This is a psychological defense mechanism where the victim unconsciously adopts the perspective of the abuser, further deepening their emotional bond. These psychological responses, while seemingly irrational, are survival strategies employed by the brain. So how do we recognize Stockholm Syndrome? The signs may be subtle, but they are distinct. Firstly, emotional bonding with the abuser is a hallmark of Stockholm Syndrome. Rather than seeing their captor as a threat, victims may develop feelings of empathy, sympathy, and even affection towards them. This emotional connection is often confusing and counterintuitive, making it a clear indicator of the syndrome. Secondly, defense mechanisms kick in. Victims may start defending their abusers, rationalizing their actions, and downplaying the harm they cause. This unconscious psychological strategy helps them cope with the distressing situation. Lastly, an unusual loyalty to the perpetrator is observed. Despite the abusive relationship, victims might resist rescue attempts and may even fear law enforcement more than their captors. Take the infamous case of Patty Hearst, for instance. Abducted by a revolutionary group, she later joined them in their criminal activities, demonstrating these very symptoms. Recognizing these signs is the first step towards understanding and addressing Stockholm Syndrome. Overcoming Stockholm Syndrome is a challenging journey, but with the right help and support, it is possible. Therapy plays an essential role in this recovery process. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for instance, helps individuals reframe their thoughts and perceptions, breaking the cycle of abuse and manipulation. Trauma-focused therapies such as eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR, can be particularly effective in processing the deep-seated trauma associated with Stockholm Syndrome. In addition to therapy, building a strong support network is crucial. This could include friends, family, or survivor support groups, where individuals can share their experiences and learn from others who have walked the same path. There are also numerous organizations and hotlines that provide resources and assistance for those affected by Stockholm Syndrome and other forms of abuse. Remember, it takes courage to seek help, and every step you take towards recovery is a victory.